All right, today we will be going over making plots in Excel graphs. So pop over to the Excel dataset for assignment 2, which we will be using for both the Excel and for R. This video only covers the Excel. So the first graph we'll be making is a scatter plot, and we'll be using exam scores and anxiety scores. Scatter plots are super simple. Just highlight the 2 columns that you want to use, pop over to Insert, Scatter Plots, bam. Now, the actual assignment requests a couple of additional objects on the graph. These can be accessed through chart elements, so you have pretty much everything that you need right here. So really quick, simple plot. Bar plots can be done in a similar manner, where you highlight the data that you want and just hit the appropriate chart. But Excel has a problem reading the data when it's like this, so you want an actual little table. But we're not going to do it that way. We're going to make a pivot chart, just so you guys have the experience of doing that. So the pivot chart option is up here, and as you can tell by the moving outline, this is the data that Excel is looking at, so you can verify that that's the data that you want to use for your pivot table. So when you hit OK, a couple little pop-ups appear, and you guys can play around in this, but it's pretty straightforward. You select the variables that you want, and all of them appear in this table. So there, if you notice, arousal has been summed, which we actually wanted the mean of arousal for these, which makes it a little bit difficult. So we have to change that to the means. Really easy fix. You can double click it and the value field settings will appear. Switch to average, hit OK. Boom, there you have it. So the overall shape of the chart remain largely the same, just the values on the y-axis changed. So that's how you do a pivot chart, and there are plenty of other options to play around with. Similar to the scatter plot, there were additional things that we wanted on here from the assignment, so just go ahead and hit the Chart Elements button to do those, make the appropriate title, etc. The last one is a histogram. Now this one requires a little extra setup on the front end. So you have your observed data. This is the data from the data set. What isn't from the original data set are these 3 columns, bad, better, and best. These are bins that will be used to put the data in for the histogram that basically tells it a group of numbers to look at the frequency for. And that'll make a little more sense when I actually do it. So let's get down to it. So the data tab, you want the data analysis tool pack. You have to have that in order to be able to use this. If you have not downloaded this or can't find it, there's a useful how-to on the Moodle page. So hit that, and you'll have several options. One of them is histogram. Click that and hit OK. So you have a couple of important things. So input range, like I mentioned before, is your actual observed data. So you can highlight it, or you can type in the proper cell values for it and hit insert. I just find it easier to highlight it. And then you have your bin range. So what I was talking about, when you take this and you highlight the bad, its values go from 0 to 4, right? So when you hit that, just make sure you have chart output checked and worksheet or new worksheet checked off. When you hit OK, it pops open a new worksheet in Excel, and you have your histogram. Now, this doesn't really look like a very good histogram, given we had 800 data points. All of them are lumped into the 2s and 3s mostly. So when you are making a histogram, the closer you are to the decimal point or values that you have in your bin, the more variability and definition you'll see in your histogram. So let's run this a couple more times just to show you guys the difference. You don't actually have to do this in your assignment, the multiple. This is just to show you guys how it looks when you do it with different sized bins for future reference. So pop that one out. And so this was with the better bin. I used 0.5 increments increase. And as you can see, we're starting to get a little more variability and a little more definition since all of the values can fit in the in-between spaces. Now the last one is the best, and this is a subjective best, but just what we have to work with. It goes in 0.25 increments. So we're going to highlight that one and click that, hit OK. And so now we have a significantly better histogram. This one actually looks histogram like a histogram as opposed to the kind of bar plot that we created the first time. So looking at all three of them, and that's how you do all three in Excel. And there were a couple of chart elements that we wanted you guys to include as well. If you have any questions, let Vinay or I know. We've created a couple forums on Moodle, as well as added our contact information on Moodle.